All right, let's jump right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're putting a highly prescriptive, polarizing, and honestly fascinating piece of internet culture right under the microscope. Today, we're unpacking a specific Arabic video that outlines what it claims are the 5 strategies women use to win arguments against men. Now, just to be super clear up front, we are acting strictly as neutral observers here. Our goal isn't to agree or disagree. We just want to categorically map out exactly what this source is claiming, the specific tactics it outlines, and the, well, somewhat extreme worldview it promotes when it comes to gender dynamics. It's a highly structured playbook, and breaking it down piece by piece is absolutely the best way to understand the architecture of this specific ideology. So here is our roadmap for today. First, logic versus emotion in arguments. Second, shifting blame and guilt tripping. Third, isolation from friends and family. Fourth, weaponizing the past and making comparisons. Fifth, the proposed male counter strategies. And lastly, the ultimate relationship ultimatum.
Kicking things off with Section 1, logic versus emotion in arguments. What is really fascinating right off the bat is how neatly the source categorizes this core dichotomy. According to the speaker, the root of literally all relationship arguments is a fundamental mismatch in objectives. The video claims that men enter an argument to establish facts and logic. Basically, they're trying to figure out the mechanics of an issue. On the flip side, the source asserts that women argue with the absolute sole purpose of winning, and they rely entirely on emotions to get there. The speaker argues that when a man's quote-unquote logic inevitably crashes into a woman's emotion, the man usually just abandons the fight out of pure frustration. And because he walks away, the woman perceives herself as the victor. So the video's main piece of advice based on all this? Men simply shouldn't enter into these arguments in the first place.
Moving right along to Section 2, shifting blame and guilt tripping. The speaker provides some very specific, everyday examples for these tactics. For Tactic 1, shifting blame, the source paints this scenario. A man comes home totally exhausted from work, and the house is chaotic and noisy. According to the video, instead of taking responsibility, the partner will just fabricate a problem. She'll blame the children's behavior on the father's absence, making the claim that if there were a real man in the house, the kids wouldn't act that way. The speaker says she's literally just fishing for a reaction and actually advises men to completely ignore it. Then we have Tactic 2, which is all about guilt tripping. And the source makes a highly controversial claim here. It states that when a man seeks his, and these are the speaker's exact words, lawful right to physical intimacy, the partner will accuse him of lacking a conscience or just not caring about how tired she is. The video frames this as a highly calculated, even narcissistic move, designed to make the man feel deep shame. The goal? Forcing him to offer materialistic solutions, like taking her out to dinner or buying gifts in exchange for intimacy. Notice how this specific ideology frames everyday domestic stress or fatigue as a calculated attack. It really fundamentally alters how a viewer might interpret their partner's actions. Next up, Section 3, isolation from friends and family. This next part is a brilliant example of how incredibly globalized internet culture is right now. The source uses the term the blue pill man, which is translated directly in the Arabic audio as ar-rajul al-zakhawi, to describe a man who is submissive to social isolation. The video claims that partners actively try to cut men off from their friends and family, so they become their absolute sole focus. It essentially treats them, in the speaker's rather harsh words, like a slave. So the blue pill man is the guy who lies and says he has to work late just so he can sneak out and see his parents because he's terrified of his partner's reaction. The speaker's prescribed countermeasure for this? Stop making excuses. Just tell her you're going out, ignore the complaints, and let her, as the video literally says, hit her head against the wall. Which brings us to Section 4, weaponizing the past and making comparisons. The really crucial takeaway here is just how incredibly defensive the source's posture is. The fourth alleged weapon is weaponizing the past. The video sternly warns men to never, ever be an open book, especially when it comes to past relationships. The claim here is that if you share vulnerabilities or stories of past breakups, that information is going to be stored away and inevitably used to blackmail or insult you in some future argument. And then the fifth weapon is making comparisons to past suitors. The source links this directly to hypergamy, which is the idea that women inherently seek partners of a higher status. If a partner ever compares a man unfavorably to someone from her past, the video interprets this as a massive red flag. To the speaker, it signals that she feels superior and actively looks down on him. The advice here is totally uncompromising. If she makes those kinds of comparisons, you end the relationship immediately because the respect is permanently gone. Okay, transitioning into Section 5, the proposed male counter strategies. To really understand the solutions being offered, we have to grasp this very specific psychological framework the source introduces, the concept of shit tests. Again, this is borrowing heavily from Western internet subcultures and adapting it for an Arabic-speaking audience. The video defines these as minor, seemingly insignificant daily conflicts. But according to the speaker, they aren't actually about the dishes or the laundry at all. They are subconscious tests designed by the partner to gauge a man's authority and see if she can provoke a submissive defensive reaction.
The speaker actually uses a super vivid role play to drive this point home. Imagine the partner asks, "Are these your socks thrown on the floor?" Well, according to the video, the submissive, blue pill response is to justify yourself. You'd say something like, "Yes, I'm sorry, I forgot them." The speaker claims this instantly puts you in the position of a child answering to a mother. The authoritative response, which the video champions, is to completely flip the script. The man is supposed to say, "Yes, pick them up and put them away." By doing this, the source argues you strip away her attempted authority and assert dominance right then and there by issuing a direct command.
So this entire counter strategy basically boils down to 3 rigid steps. First, recognize that the argument is a fabricated test. Second, absolutely refuse to provide a logical justification for your actions. And why? Because the source explicitly teaches a deeply hierarchical rule: you never justify yourself to someone of a lower status. You only justify yourself to someone higher up, like a boss at work or a parent. And third, assert dominance. The video insists, without exception, that the man must always represent authority in the household for the relationship to function properly. Finally, we hit section 6, the ultimate relationship ultimatum.
The speaker has this underlying theory that individuals are subconsciously trying to recreate the traditional, natural dynamics they saw in their parents. In the source's ideal worldview, the male role is intrinsically tied to being a father figure, meaning he provides financial protection and, crucially, absolute authority. The female role is to mirror a mother figure, nurturing for sure, but inherently submissive to that male authority. The most fascinating claim here is that if a man steps outside of this authoritative role and becomes submissive, the woman subconsciously views this as a profound betrayal of her natural programming, and according to the video, that leads directly to the collapse of the relationship.
So what exactly happens if a man tries to assert this authority, but the 5 strategies we talked about are still being used against him? Well, the source leaves men with a final, incredibly harsh arsenal of countermeasures. If you find yourself dragged into an emotional argument, the speaker recommends complete ignorance. If that fails, you escalate to the silent treatment, essentially punishing the partner by withdrawing all your attention. And finally, if the partner just refuses to submit to the man's authority or makes those past comparisons, the absolute ultimate weapon is simply ending the relationship. Get this, the Arabic speaker actually wraps up their entire manifesto with an exact English proverb, my way or the highway. It brilliantly encapsulates the rigid, uncompromising, and highly structured nature of this specific internet philosophy. It leaves literally zero room for negotiation. It is only compliance or departure. It's a stark reminder of how highly systematized views on gender dynamics are being packaged and exported globally right now. So we want to leave you with this thought to mull over. Does adopting a playbook like this actually act as a manual for healthy boundaries, or does it permanently transform a relationship into a battlefield where true partnership is basically impossible? Keep questioning, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining us for this explainer.